Welcome to Yale's new Center for Teaching and Learning. We are so glad to be here, to be part of Yale University's Sterling Memorial Library. And in particular, I want to thank Susan Gibbons and the staff of the library for all that they put up with in creating this space, the fire alarms that went off at the wrong time and the power outages and everything else, to make it possible for us to bring a center for teaching and learning to the university. One of the things that is the goal of the Center for Teaching and Learning is to make teaching a more public property at Yale, to make it something that we engage with as a conversation and that we engage with as a community. Interestingly, if you came in through what is now the back door of the library on York Street, and you look carefully over that door arch, it says private for staff. That's what it currently says, but of course this is now the first time in the history of this library that entrance is now part of a public entrance. It is now the public face to the university's main library. And so we are looking forward to the opportunity to say that is not public or private for staff, but it is in fact part of making teaching a more public property at Yale. The other thing that symbolically has happened is to follow in the words that I've heard Ben Pollack say on a number of occasions as our provost, that teaching and learning is, and he's very careful about the verb there, is the mission of the university. And so what we have now is a facility where research which goes on in the Sterling Library is literally merged with teaching and teaching resources that go on here also in Sterling Library as part of the Center for Teaching and Learning. So I think this is symbolically as well as meaningfully a clear indication of what we're trying to accomplish as a university in making this the research university most devoted to teaching. So at this point I want to thank just a few other people. I want to thank, in addition to Susan Gibbons and the library staff, I want to thank Newman Architects, as well as Standard Builders, who designed and built this amazing space. And then also I want to thank Jenny Frederick and Lucas Swineford, who really did the lion's share of the planning and the programming and thinking about this space, what this space would look like. And I will now turn the time over to them to tell you about what we plan to use this space for.
Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to see all of you and to be here today for so many reasons. I'll echo thank you messages to the university leadership, to the library staff, to the architects and university facilities colleagues, and a special thank you to my CTL colleagues who have been patient, creative, and sometimes brutally honest, all in the right ways. So the university leaders are committed to teaching, and our new home is a very clear signal that teaching is central to the vital mission at Yale. And Lucas and I have often reflected that designing a physical home for our space while we were constructing our organizational structure was an excellent opportunity to incorporate some of the personality traits or values of our organization. Our center values collaboration, transparency, and human connection. We're driven by teaching and learning rather than technology. We're guided by the fundamental understanding that excellent teaching is inclusive teaching. This is a space for the entire Yale community.
Thanks, Jenny. So on your tours, you should have heard a little bit about, or you will hear about, how we navigated the incredible opportunity to locate the CTL within the iconic Sterling Memorial Library. This also came with quite a responsibility. Now, the biggest challenges that we had throughout this entire design process really come back to what Jenny just alluded to, this dedication to building a center that was an extension of our values as an organization. We had to create areas within this footprint that were capable of many simultaneous activities for a variety of audiences. We wanted to give the groups that use this space the agency to design them in ways and move the furniture around in methods that met their specific needs. And doing this also required that we move the 50 staff members who work as part of the CTL, an interconnected center, into this space. We started this process by electing not to have private individual offices in the staff areas, which are tucked away in the back. Now, of course, our professional staff does work that requires discretion and private discussions at times. So one of the ways that we solved that concern was to give the groups primary ownership or primary management of one of the meeting rooms that you see along the rooms here in the nave. We also stopped using descriptors like meeting room or conference room very early on in the design process, because one of the things that we realized is when we called something a meeting room, people then thought it could only hold meetings. We wanted to open up everyone's creativity, everyone's vision as to how a room could be used. Now, the furniture within these rooms is also flexible. Again, so we can meet any idea that you have. The medium and large rooms, which are many of the rooms along York Street, are built for maximum flexibility. The tables are on wheels. The chairs are light and glide along the carpet. Even the display technologies in each of these rooms is intended to be mobile. So if you need more than one display in your classroom to teach an active session, you can simply wheel one in either from the common area or out into the room.
And that also means that we don't have a default configuration for the rooms. When you think about walking into a room, you might find it set up in a way that you'd never imagined, that inspires you to think just a little bit differently about how you arrange your group, your class, or your workshop.
Now, you hear us. I think we're back on. No? Okay. So we're talking a lot about the flexibility of this space, how we don't want to prescribe certain ways of using it. But there's one exception to that, and it's the area that you're all standing in now. If you look to your left and your right, you'll notice how much space we dedicated to touchdown areas for students, faculty, and staff. There are also spaces like this upstairs. The one request we have is when you use these spaces, do not be quiet. These spaces are intended to learn through discussion, conversation, debate, music, laughter, anything you can imagine, but please do not be quiet.
So to describe the form and the function of our new space, I like to use the metaphor of a greenhouse. We like to nurture the seeds of ideas and learners and help them bloom and grow. And then we also think about pruning, showcasing, trying out new varieties next to old standbys. And until we get the heat perfectly tuned, we even had a little bit of climate change throughout the space. And Lucas and I have talked a lot about the design conceptually and philosophically, but let me also briefly close by summarizing what we do in this space by talking about some of the main groups that we work with. Undergraduates, you'll come here for writing, tutoring, and academic strategies programming. Much of this happens here as well as other spaces on campus. Graduate students and postdocs, you'll come here for writing workshops, for teaching skills development in many forms, and this also happens in other places on campus, but the hub of that will be here. Faculty, we do a lot of work with you in your offices, in your classrooms, and department spaces. And now our new space gives us opportunities to showcase teaching live in real time, right along York Street and some of it upstairs. And this allows us to incubate teaching experiments or new initiatives that will benefit from hands-on support.
And this is one of the areas where when we talk about how we're an interconnected center, you can really see it come to fruition. When a faculty member comes to speak with us about what may start as a technology initiative, we can simply turn to our colleagues in the faculty development team and ask them to speak with this faculty member about new forms of pedagogy in the classrooms so they really get full support of the entire center.
We are so happy today to be celebrating this new space that we have created with so many partners for the CTL to help us achieve the university's vision for continued excellence in teaching and learning. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our provost, Ben Pollack.
Thank you. So a group of us started to conspire about this. I always deny that conspiracy happens in the provost office, but on this occasion it was a bit of a conspiracy, in 2013. And the conspirators had some very vague ideas. One vague idea was we wanted to bring together Yale's wonderful but disparate teaching centers into one place. And the reason for that, things like the Graduate Teaching Office, the Writing Center, Instructional Technology, etc. And the reason for that is we believed, or we suspected, that we could learn from each other, right? That there's enormous benefit in, when we're thinking about teaching, thinking about pedagogy, that actually the people teaching science can benefit from listening to the people who teach writing, and people who teach writing can benefit from listening to people who teach science. So that was idea number one. It's sort of complementarity, bringing things together. And the other idea was we kind of wanted to make a statement. We wanted to make a statement about the importance of teaching and learning at Yale. And look around you, and what a statement we've ended up making. This is just unbelievable. So we're going to see different kinds of people coming here for different kinds of things. I like the idea of the whole range. I like the idea that freshmen are going to come here when they're struggling with their first college essay, and that senior faculty like me who need retooling for new technology are going to come here to figure out how to turn on the new technology. But I think we don't really quite know what's going to happen. Right? We've got these amazing visionaries. You just heard Jenny and Lucas. We're incredibly lucky to have them. I think the great thing is we don't really quite know what direction this is going to go, and that's great. Right? We think it's going to evolve, and we're going to learn new things, and we're going to find things don't work, and we're going to try different things, and that's perfect. So I want to thank some people too, and obviously Jenny and Lucas and Susan Gibbons have done an amazing job, and they should be thanked. But I wanted to single out two people in particular. One is Yale's secret visionary, who is not always visible, but understands spaces, and frankly had the idea for this being the space, and snuck a group of us in here at night many years ago. So Yale's secret visionary and secret planner is Lloyd Suttle, and I think we should all recognize that. And the other person is the force behind this. So I first heard Scott Strobel talking about education to the trustees, I guess my first year, my first month in this office. And I thought that I was passionate and coherent about teaching, and listening to Scott made me realize I wasn't. There is nobody more passionate about this. There's nobody more clear thinking about this. And he has been the person who has led this, and what you see around you, thanks go to many people, but the real key leader here, the person we all owe a huge thanks to, is Scott Strobel. So with that, I'm going to hand over to my boss, so Peter.
Thank you very much, Ben. Good afternoon, everybody. You know, I seem to have lost my voice at the Yale-Harvard football game in November. And too many good things have happened since that have required cheering and speech making, and I have not regained it yet. And I think that's mostly a good thing, although I apologize that you have to listen to it. It's great to see so many of you here. We have students, we have faculty, staff, there are parents here, alumni, friends, community members, which already suggests the exciting way in which this space will be used to attract people from all over the Yale community. About a year ago, maybe it's a little more than a year ago, I posted on the website a new mission statement for Yale and 7 new goals. I won't ask for a show of hands how many of you have read that, because I have learned in these kinds of positions that when you do something like that, you're sort of writing for yourself in a certain kind of way. But if you did have a chance to look at those, you will see that the first goal of the 7 goals for the university is to be the research university most committed to teaching and learning. And that's not just rhetoric. I mean, think about that. Research, we are a fantastic research university, but we say as our first goal that we are that research university most committed to teaching and learning. And I think so many in our community embody that goal, that it's now become fundamental to Yale's DNA. When people talk about Yale, they will say that, well, Yale's a place that always deeply cares about its teaching and learning mission. Actually, this isn't so new. Are there any students here from Timothy Dwight College? Anybody have associated with Timothy Dwight? Well, Timothy Dwight is ambiguously named either for the grandfather or the grandson, both of whom served Yale, and both of whom were named Timothy Dwight. But the older Timothy Dwight was also known as a fantastic teacher. In those days, being a fantastic teacher meant giving lectures that students listened to with rapt attention. His lectures were so good that his students would work together to transcribe them. And he didn't read from a text. And the lectures of Timothy Dwight were largely written down by his students. So a couple of points I'm trying to make with this example. One is that it really is in our DNA. It goes back to the 19th century, at least. The second is just the wonderful illustration of teaching through technology that Timothy Dwight's lectures were. He lectured, and his students took a pencil and wrote them down on a piece of paper. And that was all they had to work with at the time. Well, as Ben described earlier, there are many programs being brought together in this space that support teaching and learning. The wonderful aspect of this space that maybe Ben certainly hinted at it, but I want to elaborate on for just a second, is what happens when you bring programs together that previously were segregated in separate spaces. Well, they find each other, and then they invent new ways of working together, and that leads to new to innovation. And so part of the secret behind this space is to bring together all these people who care deeply about teaching and learning, all of these activities, and all of the students and faculty who tended to take part in them, and have them rub up against each other every day and await what combusts and comes out of those interactions. So I join everyone up here in congratulating Scott and Jenny and Lucas for expanding our vision, creating new dialogue, and creating a new future for teaching and learning at Yale. You've already seen the fruits of their labors in Faculty Bulldog Days and the Diversity in Education series, in the Academic Strategies program for undergraduates. All of these stand alongside our pre-existing programs, graduate writing workshops, peer tutoring, instructional, learning how to use instructional technology. We really have a suite of programs that I think rivals anyone's, and now all kinds of new things will come out of it. We have to cut the ribbon here and signal the grand opening. It's always my favorite part of all of this. But before we do that, a personal note of gratitude to two people, two special guests of the university who are here today, who without their support, we wouldn't be standing here. And that is Scott Cook and Signe Astby, who shared our vision for what a unified teaching and learning center, an expanded teaching and learning center could mean for Yale. They believed in its importance. They shared the vision. They provide instrumental startup funding for this project that turned that vision into the reality that we're all touring today. I don't think this could have come out in a more exciting way. I usually get to tour spaces before the ribbon cutting so that I don't walk into them, pick up the scissors, and only then look around and say, oh my God, this place is wonderful. But that's what happened today. I hadn't seen it except in photographs until now. And I have to say that Scott and Signe, your ability to envision this, there you are, your ability to envision this and imagine this and help us envision it and imagine it and support it is just something that everyone standing up here is simply so grateful for. So I'm hoping you will come up and join us in the ribbon cutting. We have many deans with us today. I should point out, I see Dean Snyder and Dean Blocker and Dean Gedler representing their schools joining us for the ribbon cutting. Why don't we all come together and please come around and we will cut the ribbon. This This is the only dangerous part of our activities for the day. You've, I don't know how, we'll get you guys. No, we always, you learned probably in kindergarten not to run with scissors. It's because your kindergarten teacher imagined that someday you would be standing with a 3-foot scissors, be tempted to run with it. I'm going to give this to you both. And now this is actually a photo op. So.
Just look at me.
That's the before. And then on 3. He tries to get it with the ribbon in the air.
1, 2, 3.
All right, so again, thank you for coming. There's food and there's spaces to look at and explore and think about how you can use them for your teaching and learning. I hope you'll take advantage of the opportunity to sort of investigate this space with a little bit of hand-holding. But again, thank you for coming, and we look forward to what this will do for teaching and learning at Yale. Thank you.